Welcome to another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, and today we're talking all things San Francisco 49ers against the Los Angeles Rams. 49ers got to travel down to LA for this game. The Rams coming off a big win, so I need a little bit of help to figure out, is this going to like a fool's gold team? Like, we thought they were supposed to be bad. Are they going to be good? They're coached by Sean McVay. I have a lot of questions about this team, and I have a great guest coming on to help me with that. Appreciate everybody for tuning into the show, and make sure you
like and subscribe this video.
Yeah. I know we usually go live early today. A lot of errands I was running, and it kind of aligned well with when my now co-host or guest is coming on, Jake Ellenbogen. Did I say it right? I said it right the first time. Did I say it right?
You said it right off air, and then you butchered it now. What are you doing?
That's how you know it was an accident when I said it right the first time. Jake, at JK Boggin on Twitter. Oh, gosh, I'm butchering his name. Jake, all right. We are proud to have Jake on, and, longtime host of different shows for the LA Rams. But when I put it out there on Twitter, what Rams host should I bring on? I mean, I'd say 95% of the people tagged you and said it should be you. So I DM'd you, and there's like, bro, they said you got to come on. So,
man, I appreciate it. You reached out. I can clearly see you didn't go on Reddit and ask, because they would be like, oh, I hate that Jake guy, But I don't know why. Just Reddit hates me. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. It's been kind of cool. I mean, I was joking about this with Rob Guerrera yesterday, because he came on my show, and I was joking about it because I liked a few of the posts sticking up for Trey Lance, because that's like my guy. And now my Twitter feed is a 49ers echo chamber. So I've seen every single content creator to ever make any content for the 49ers in the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I was on Spaces talking about that whole situation. I think it's really polarizing because it's just something that we haven't seen, and I don't think we'll ever see again. A guy that you spent so much capital on, and because of the emergence of Brock Purdy, it kind of kicked the guy out after 4 starts. Like, obviously there's some injuries involved there. There's Jimmy Garoppolo year, but
yeah,
a very unique situation that I think people are still trying to wrap their heads around. I know I am trying to figure out, like, what the heck was that? But out of it came a prince, Brock Purdy, a guy who's kind of going to lead the 49ers now to the promised land. So we'll talk about him and all that. But first, I want to discuss with you a little bit about where the Rams are right now. And heading to the year, I mean, I think we thought the Rams are going to be a team that's just kind of dead in the water. And I got my guy Gammon here. He says, I have been asking for this on both streams for a year. It's finally here. Thank you both. Yeah, appreciate you, Gammon.
There you go. So
Gammon, big fan of Jake's as well. But, the Rams are a team where the 49ers just felt like, you don't have to worry about them. It's the Seahawks that are up next. And then the Rams go and they beat the Seahawks. So first, heading into that game, what have been the expectations of the Rams? Because around the league, I feel like it's extremely low, but you still have Matthew Stafford, you still have Aaron Donald, and you still have a great coach in Sean McVay. So do you have expectations for this team right now?
I do. I think when you look at week 1, Pete Carroll and Seattle just didn't take this team very seriously. So it ended up looking like a bigger win than what it might have been against a team that might have done actual preparation. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the tape or anything from that game, but I can tell you right now, Eric, they read too much into Cooper Kupp being out. They didn't give any sort of praise, glory, blessings towards that wide receiver room. They thought they essentially were going to come in and hand the ball off to Cam Akers 80 times. I mean, if you saw how much that they stacked that box and they did not take Tutu Atwell, who honestly would have had 3 touchdowns if Stafford played in Week 18 last year, seriously, it was interesting. But no, I think the Rams are legit. I picked them to go 10-7 before the season started and make the playoffs. I have the Niners winning the division at 11-6. I had the Rams getting to the divisional round of the playoffs, kind of like what they did in 2020. They had the number 1 defense, couldn't get things going necessarily on the offensive side with John Wolford coming in looking better than Goff, and then that whole thing happened. He gets concussed in the first playoff game, and Goff played his last game against the Packers. But I think when you look at this team, it's been all about, tank, Caleb Williams. I mean, you said it, Sean McVay's the coach. This is a really good coaching staff. I don't think Eric Yarber ever gets enough credit, the wide receivers coach, who is responsible for Tutu Atwell having 119 yards last week, responsible for Puka Nacua, a fifth-round, late-round pick there, emerging in his first game, like for the first time in quite a while where we've seen a fifth-rounder have a game like that. So, I think this team is just better than what was advertised throughout the mainstream. You know what I mean, Eric? Like, I think... do I look at the 30-13 as a chance for the Rams to do the same in the Niners? No. But do I look at the 30-13 as like the Rams should be respected moving forward, and they'll probably be that team that's in every single game like they were last year? Yes. They were in every game last year except for one, Eric, going into the fourth quarter with a horrible offense. Horrible. We're talking third string center here, a fourth string tackle that was on your practice squad in 2012 here. And the way I see it is that this team came out, they made a statement on the road, against Seattle. And, I'm not looking at this as they need to win this game, right? I'm looking at this as you need to see the consistency. You need to see the competitive nature. And I think we'll get that in what I believe is going to be a 49ers win, 28-24. But I think the Rams are going to fight hard in this one, and they might be leading at the end of the game with a 49er game-winning drive or something like that.
And I think that's a lot more respect than the rest of really the world. I just saw on social media, on Twitter, I think it was like NFL analysts, it's like 9 out of 10 of them are picking the 49ers to win. There's like one, and even with that one, you see the 49er fans in there, and it's like, they still don't respect us, It's
yeah.
like, okay, come on now. But I think as far as getting respect, it's the Rams, a team that, not too long ago won a Super Bowl. It was led by Matthew Stafford. You still have him. And I think a lot of the way that teams are, or people are viewing this team, kind of stems from not having Cooper Kupp. We knew he was a lot of the offense. So now you have two receivers that have emerged. And you said, that, hey, there's one guy there, Tutu Atwell. He would have played very well with Matthew Stafford had he had him late last year. He didn't. Now he does, and he has 119 games. But there's also Puka Nacua. How do you say his last name?
Akuna Matata? No, Puka Nacua.
Nacua, there we go, out of BYU. And he's a guy, I go to and I know he played with Washington prior to that, but I go to the Senior Bowl every year.
Yeah.
And my philosophy on the Senior Bowl is that, outside of guys you're just going to see throughout the year, I don't do a whole lot of study on like kind of the others, right? Mm-hmm. So the Senior Bowl a lot of times is my chance to go in there. I try not to do too much research on the guys, and I just want to see like who stands out and why. And Puka Nacua was a guy who I felt like stood out at the Senior Bowl for different reasons, just from a pure route running ability standpoint. He was very fluid. He looked natural, hands catcher. He's like checking off all these boxes, and I'm like, who is this guy? Then he goes to the Rams, and in the first game of the season, he gets targeted 15 times. Catches 8 of those passes, goes for 116 yards, and now all of a sudden, a team where you're thinking outside of a guy who they'll force feed the ball with Cooper Kupp, who else do they have? And clearly you said Seahawks, they thought it would be the running back Cam Akers, but it's not. It's actually these receivers who they're doing everything to get the ball in their hands. So Puka and Tutu, are those two guys that the 49ers fans should be kind of like, hey, we need to take notice of these guys, and they might be next up for the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, definitely. With Van Jefferson, a contract year, and unfortunately, he dropped a surefire touchdown last week. And you could see it, like he was there like this, like he knew, like, I mean, these guys are going off, and I'm not pulling my weight with a 4-catch, 28-yard performance. The way to beat the 49ers, I think, is to stretch the field. So I think they're going to be very ready for Puka Nacua, who is going to play like that Cooper Kupp role while Kupp is gone. Not to say Puka can't go deep down the field. Stafford missed him by an eyelash, and he almost had another huge play there. But the way I see it, Eric, is Tutu Atwell is the X factor, and he's one of the most dangerous players on the field on Sunday, because if he is able to get past that defense, even if they don't connect or whatever, you have to respect that. And now it'll open up the middle of the field and those short and intermediate passing attack and whatnot. So the way I see it is, first off, if you keep Matthew Stafford upright, I mean, he's been doing this since Detroit. Doesn't matter if it was a Danny Amendola there or a Hunter Bryant down the seam, the third string tight end. He will throw to whoever's wearing his helmet. He's not one of those guys like we heard like with Aaron Rodgers, like he didn't feel comfortable throwing to this guy, or like Tom Brady. No, you have to like earn his trust. He's not going to throw to you. No, Matthew Stafford will throw to you. And I think the cool thing about everything that they're going through with the Cooper Kupp thing, because it sucks, right? But there's a silver lining out of this, is that these guys are getting reps and these guys are getting targets. And we heard over and over again, like, all Matthew Stafford does is target Cooper Kupp. It's why Allen Robinson didn't work out. And like, I think that's unfair because there's a lot of context needed from last season. Stafford missed all of training camp, so he didn't get a chance to build a rapport with anybody. So he basically was like, all right, I have no time to throw. Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee are the only guys I actually trust in this offense because I have no time to throw. My elbow is not the same. So look, this year, in my opinion, I think when you look at the way they protected Stafford in the first game, I'm not saying Seattle has anywhere near the defense as the Niners, but the way they protect him in the first game, this could be a fun showdown. And number 5, Tutu Atwell, who Jalen Ramsey gave him his blessing to take that number. Watch out for him. He's a certified baller, and I think before the season, people were saying, you're insane. I said he's going over 1,000 yards.
Well, after week 1, he very well might. All right. And there is something I'm going to tie into this with the stats. Okay. Obviously, this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. And when you do that, make sure you use promo code Crocky, because when you use that code, they will double your deposit up to $100. Now, on today's show, we're going to do something very fun. Obviously, what we're going to do every Friday now is a $50 Underdog Fantasy giveaway. So y'all know what to do, man. If you haven't already downloaded the app or you're not a part of Underdog Fantasy, do that now. Use promo code Crocky and send in your username. All right. So I will tell you when. All right. You don't do it yet. I will tell you when to put your username in the chat. We're not going to do it yet. Last week, I allowed my guest, to pick who gets the $50. So Jake, the pressure is on you. You will be picking, but we're not going to do it yet. I'm going to give everybody time to download the app, use promo code Crocky, and then you put your username in the chat. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be doing that shortly at the end of this episode. All right, let's get into this game. All right, and I will be asking you about some players because I actually have the share screen. Hold on, Underdog Fantasy. Here we go. Boom. I got to pick them up here. You see it's already on the Rams. So you got Van Jefferson, you got Puka, you got Tutu, you got their receptions, their yards, Tyler Higbee. You got all this. They got a lot of players here. They got some tackles in there as well. So we're going to get your thoughts on all of that just so we can kind of figure out where are we putting our money this week. But we're going to hold off on that. I want to ask you about this game. You talked about the 49ers and you talked about kind of the pass rush and maybe 49ers having a better pass rush than the Seattle Seahawks and how the Rams were able to protect Matthew Stafford against the Seahawks. What were your thoughts kind of watching, if you were able to watch the 49ers against the Steelers? And I know this was at a different time. So, like, I got to watch the Seahawks and the Rams. But when you watched that, what was kind of going through your mind? Did you think, like some people, the Steelers, they just been kind of, everybody's been blowing smoke about them. They are not that good. And you got to see that on full display. Or did you come out thinking, I think the 49ers they're just good?
Yeah, Eric, I think the Steelers are legit. They'll probably end up winning 12 games. That's how good I think the Niners are.
Yeah.
I thought that game was one of those games where, and the Niners historically start slow, in the first week. So to go out to Pittsburgh and just punch him in the mouth, and the referee tries to stop the match and you just continue to punch him in the mouth, I mean that was kind of impressive. And look, did it have something to do with maybe the words that Patrick Peterson said? Maybe. I wouldn't say it. I'll say this, Crocky. You played in the NFL. You played DB. Maybe it's just because I don't have that like competitive nature in me as an athlete, but I wouldn't give anybody bulletin board material. Like, I'm of the belief, like, show me, don't tell me, right? Because you could talk all you want afterwards, but why? What do you have to gain talking before? And so I feel like that had something to do with it. And I don't like to read too much into those like headlines. Like I want to talk more football and not like TMZ, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do read into something like that where I'm like, all right, maybe a guy who doesn't take his job as seriously and just plays football because he's good at it, not necessarily because he has the passion for it. Maybe now that guy on Sunday is like, I'm going to rip your head off. You woke me up, And it's like, I don't know. I look at it like that. But no, in all honesty, Brandon Ayuk is turning into one of the best receivers in all football. If you haven't been paying attention, which I'm sure you have, he has. And they didn't really use Kittle a lot. They didn't use Samuel a lot. And, I mean, McCaffrey had 152 yards rushing in the quietest 152-yard rushing game I've ever seen. So that's where we're at on this one. Like, the Steelers, coming into this, I thought they had a nasty defense, one of the best in the league. I thought Kenny Pickett was going to come out and ball, honestly. And Pickett struggled. The offensive line, the new tooled offensive line, they got rid of Kendrick Green. They set Kevin Knotts in the Rams because they were so sold that this offensive line had everybody they needed for the blocking scheme that they switched to. And I mean, man, it was not a good day at the office. We'll just say that for Pittsburgh. Now, I do think Pittsburgh bounces back and beats Cleveland. But my point is that I just think the 49ers dominated them, and I don't think you can take anything away from what Brock Purdy did with film out there, because that's been the talk all offseason. I've been a part of it. Hey, that's great. Brock Purdy did this. Now let's see with film out there. And it's like the Steelers had all that tape. They had all the tendencies. It's all on film. And they didn't look like they had any chance of stopping him. And the thing that really makes this look like not a fluke, and I say this like with Seattle, for instance, with the Rams, it's like the reason why I know it's not a fluke is because they had no run game to speak of, right? They had no run game to speak of. They still blew them out, right? And when I look at this game, I'm like, the Steelers, like TJ Watt got a strip sack. He had 3 sacks, and it still was a blowout. Like, that's a big deal right there to overcome something like that. And not just overcome it, make it look like it was like, oh, yeah, TJ Watt also had 3 sacks. Like, who cares?
Three sacks, 2 forced fumbles, but,
Yeah.
No, it was wild, and it was wild for me to watch it because I expected it to be a good game. I mean, there's been times in the offseason where I'm like, I think Steelers are probably going to beat the 49ers week 1. That's a tough game. You're on the road. You're in Pittsburgh. Like, Mike Tomlin doesn't lose home openers. This is a terrific coach, et cetera. Like, you can think of all these reasons. They have all these playmakers on defense. That's going to be tough for the Niners. Niners have a tendency sometimes to start slower, and you can talk yourself into thinking like, man, like that's going to be tough. And then the 49ers just go through and just bulldoze them throughout a game. And I'm like, damn, like if the 49ers can play like that on the road, opening the week, is this just them? Are they going to be consistently this? And if so, how difficult of a team is that going to be to beat from the jump, like for the rest of the season? Now I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, gosh, like where do you see a 49ers loss? So you already kind of explained that you felt like 49ers probably win this in the close game. That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
So now I guess how does it happen? Like, do you see maybe the Rams having a better chance because there is Aaron Donald? And I think the one thing for the Steelers, when they did get the 3 sacks from one guy, right? When they did get the forced fumbles, I feel like they didn't really take advantage of it. So having a guy like Aaron Donald, you talk about keeping this game close. Him potentially being able to line up across from guys like Spencer Burford or across from guys like McKivitz. And if he can kind of get in there and disrupt things, do you think that can maybe kind of flip things to where I think it's a close game, but the Niners win to, man, if Aaron Donald shows up and Matthew Stafford continues to have this rapport with Puka and Tutu Atwell, maybe things can be a little bit better for the Rams as far as the outcome of it?
So I think every fan that I've seen is really, I'm not every fan. Let's go back there, because there's some people that were telling me that we're getting Caleb Williams, and then they see that, which I've been telling them they're gonna beat Seattle. I'm not worried. And the next day they're telling me, oh, you're crazy for thinking they're going to lose to the 49ers. We're going 17-0. It's like, oh, good Lord, tribalism. Anyway, really the way this whole thing works is that if the Rams hold the 49ers to under, say, 3.5 sacks, I think they got shot. Like, I think they're still going to get to Stafford. I still think that white jersey is going to be a little dirty at the end of the game. Not like last week.
They're wearing red jerseys.
No, the Rams. The Rams are wearing white jerseys.
Oh, okay, so, yeah. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. So no, I'm not a huge fan of it. It should be blue, but whatever. But I do think it's gonna be jersey. It's gonna be a dirty jersey this week. Not like slopping. It's not gonna be like just completely covered. But I think the point here is that if you keep Stafford somewhat upright, he can keep them in this game. Now, my biggest concern is not Brock Purdy. My biggest concern is not Debo, even though it should be probably. I mean, he'll probably go off. My biggest concern is not Ayuk or Kittle. My biggest concern is not on the defense. It is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, no matter when he plays the Rams, who he's been on playing the Rams, has always gone off against the Rams. I just don't think until they stop Christian McCaffrey, I'm not going to believe that they can stop Christian McCaffrey. And what I will say is a lot of Rams fans don't want to admit this, right? Because it's a 30-13 win. They want respect. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, we dominated them. And that's true. You can say that. However, there are two things that are important to point out there. One, both tackles went down with an injury. So you can't just not mention that. You could say it doesn't affect the game's win or loss. It's still going to be a win in the Rams book because they were dominating them. Byron Young, the rookie, was eating Charles Cross's lunch, which I'm very excited about him for. But number two, this is a big one, because they took over the game and they put Seattle in a bind, because Seattle was winning at halftime. People don't realize that. So they put Seattle in a bind, getting, that lead and making them have to throw the ball, which they couldn't. Kenny Walker had 5.2 yards per carry when they stopped running, and like 10, 11 carries. Like, he wasn't stopped. They just stopped him. Like, the Seahawks stopped him. And it's like you could almost justify, even though you were down in the game, it would have been better to run the football, because the Rams on those outside zone runs, which of course Christian McCaffrey can be a problem with, you have Byron Young who's a work in progress. He's a rookie. I'm not going to go too hard on him. I want to see him set the edge a little bit better. Michael Hoyt's 310 pounds, my guy. Okay, he does what he can. I mean, he covered DK Metcalf last week and had a pass breakup. But I've said it all off season. I think this team can be competitive. They're going to have to probably trade for an edge defender at the deadline, because they do not have a guy, and I say defender, not rusher, for a reason. They don't have a guy that can rush the passer consistently, unless Byron Young ends up being that guy. He looked good last week. We'll see. Let's say consistently next to Byron Young, and they don't have a guy that can consistently set that edge. And that is a big issue here, because run defense is just as important as rushing the passer as an edge defender. And the Rams simply don't have that. So when I'm watching Kenny Walker just bouncing off guys and getting to that, getting off to the line, I can't even talk, the boundary there, and running up the field, and he's got that speed. He's got, a good build for the running back spot. And then I see Christian McCaffrey, who's got the perfect build now for the running back spot. I'm like, I could see this being a problem. And so the script for the game, because we've been overusing that and everything. But the script for the game, I would say, is it's going to come down to, I think the Rams have the lead, 24-21 late in the game. And I think the 49ers just go down the field at the end of the game, tired defense, because, this 49ers team plays physical. And tired defense just keeps running Christian McCaffrey down their throat. and they score a game-winning touchdown, and they win 28-24. That's how I see it. I think, which is, I'll sign up for that, because I'll sign up for that over a 2-possession loss or whatever. Like, yes, it's heartbreaking, but it shows you they're there, and I think that's the thing. This defense allowed 12 yards and a first down in the second half last week. This same defense that everyone at PFF was saying, I don't even know who like Michael Hoyt is. Like, you know what I mean? Like that same defense. And so I think what we're going to see is, once again, this defense and Raheem Morris, a renewed energy, playing a little bit more physical, not playing as off as much, because they played a lot of bend don't break last year because of how bad the offense was. Now they can take a little bit more, opportunities and chances. So I think because of that, you'll see some good things, but you'll also see, like, Darion Kendrick had some moments last week where you're like, wow, this guy really developed. And then he had that one play with DK who he was just gone. He wasn't even on. He was in your living room. He was no longer on the TV. And so, I think that's something that we could see. I mean, especially, I think Ayuk is the best route runner if you combine the Seahawks receivers and the 49ers. He's the best route runner of all of those guys. So I think if what we should expect is Darion Kendrick is on Ayuk, I think we're going to get a couple of those where you're like, oh, there's no one near him. And it's not like last night where, they had the broken coverage with KJ Osborne in the back of the end zone. No. Like, Ayuk is going to earn that, right? So that's how I see it. I just think that this defense, who people said was going to be the worst in the league, is not going to be worse in the league, Eric. But it's going to have its peaks, its valleys. It's going to have its growing pains. And people need to understand that. And I think, last week is great. They got to build off that. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a win this week.
I like that. And I like that, perspective on it, right? Like, you guys are trying to build towards something. You have a lot of newer, younger players, a lot of guys that haven't been in kind of like that superstar role. And how can these guys develop? And, you play well against the Seahawks. You get to feel that, what it feels like to win. Okay, this is the level we have to play at. You go and play with 49ers. Maybe it results in a win. Maybe it results in a loss. But whatever it is, let's continue to build off of that towards something, because the season is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we should, especially 49ers, understand that, because the last few years, the 49ers have started out like kind of poor, like not very good. And they've had to go on runs at different points in the season to really make the playoffs. And I think, 2021, it took a Week 18 win against the Rams to make the playoffs. So if anybody understands it about, like, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, it's the 49ers and the fans here in the chat. But looking at this Rams team, you still have some really good pieces, some staples. And it starts with Matthew Stafford on one side, Aaron Donald on the other, and clearly McVay, who always has his guys ready. Somehow not against the 49ers, but we'll see how. And that is the weirdest thing to me for a team that is so well coached, and they've had all these like legit players, and somehow in the regular season, not in the postseason, obviously the Rams won the one that counted, but in the regular season, the 49ers just have had their number, and I don't understand it. I don't know why.
Oh, I do.
Obviously, we're always, hoping that continues, but it's just really been a very strange thing that has played out that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this right now, Eric. It's because the 49ers, and this is no disrespect to the 49ers, they built their team to beat the Rams. They looked at the Rams as the number one team to take down, right? That's the only thing we need to worry about is the Rams, because the Rams, they were in the Super Bowl the second year of Sean McVay. 49ers started off slow with Kyle Shanahan. I think a lot of people forget that. And, I think really after those times where the Rams were just beating the Niners, like the easier ones, we're talking CJ Beathard and, those guys, Nick Mullins, I think the 49ers, like we saw at that draft of like McGlinchey, I know it didn't work out the way they were hoping, but that was like a direct, like, we're going to stop the Rams here. Like, okay, you got Aaron Donald. We're going to go out and get a really good first round offensive lineman. And I think just the way they've seen, like, the Rams don't look at linebacker the way the Niners do. The Niners look at linebacker, and they got Fred Warner. They got Dre Greenlaw, and watch out for D. Winters. I'm telling you, that guy is a baller. But they have these linebackers that have great range, that are physical, and can just ruin your day. And the Rams, they have one linebacker who would potentially push for a starting role on the 49ers. That's Ernest Jones. The rest of those guys, they'd be special teamers. Nothing against special teamers. I'm just saying the Rams don't look at linebacker like it's a priority. It's why Bobby Wagner's not back. And last year it was why we were so confused that they brought in Bobby Wagner, because that's against their MO. They don't pay linebackers. So because of that, the 49ers are looking, man, linebackers in that second level, and they're kind of low on linebackers there. And like Ernest Jones, the only one, like if I'm the 49ers, I'm getting it to Debo or somebody like that. The way they're all built, they're all filled out. They're all like running backs catching the football. I'm running the hell over Christian Roseboom. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm doing, because that to me is a mismatch. And that's how the Niners have built their team. You know, you look at the short, quick passing attack, short and intermediate. It's why they went out and got Trey Lance to try and, you know, spruce it up and add another element. It didn't work, but Purdy somewhat has that element. He's not Trey Lance mobility wise, but he's got good mobility. You know, he's like Baker Mayfield coming out. Like, you know, that's enough, right? Yeah. And so I think when you factor in that mobility piece, which is something Garoppolo didn't have, I think that's what makes the Niners offense more dangerous. But the way Shanahan, it's like it's almost harder to stop because Sean McVay knows what Shanahan does, but he can tweak it just a little bit. And with what they have and how they've gone out their archetypes for who they go after, and having a Kittle and having an Ayuk and having a Debo here, they all know like run after the catch ability, breaking tackles. It just cooks the Rams. And the Rams aren't going to just build to stop the 49ers. They're going to keep building their way. That's how they are. That's how they are. They don't listen to anybody. They don't copy anybody. They're the ones that are setting the trend. It's why like the F them picks thing, that they started that. So they're not about to change their MO. And maybe they did a little bit last year with Wagner, and they saw the way the season went, and they're like, all right, back to how we do things. And so that's the interesting thing. Is like, how much base are we going to see with Christian Roseboom and Ernest Jones this week? Because we saw a lot of it last week, and I was a little surprised to see that long-haired guy, Jack Rabbit, former UDFA, in there. You know, the way he was playing. I mean, he was playing more than I expected. So I wonder if they go a little bit different this week. I do believe that teams don't show their hand, and especially in a 30-13 win, you don't have to put everything out there. You don't have to pull out all the stops. So I think they held back Ben Skoranek a little bit, who's been like their fullback, wide receiver, tight end guy, kind of like the use check, if you will, of that team. And then I'd say John Johnson. Guys, he got no playing time last week on the defensive side of the ball, and we've seen him. He's been the only one for the Rams to really be able to cover Kittle. I wonder if they use John Johnson kind of in like that dime backer role. But I'm curious. It's going to be very interesting, and it's not as simple as, all right, our 11 versus your 11. Like the 49ers are going to do some crazy stuff that the Rams are going to have to, you know, have an answer for.
We got someone in the chat here, DCW 7777, and he says, Lions fan here who still watches Stafford, and he looked like the young version that he diced up when he diced up the Seattle.
He's right. He's right. I have not seen Stafford look that. I mean, Stafford looked unbelievable last week, and I don't think he's getting the headlines. Like, people are putting him in their top 10s in power rankings, even though I don't think there was a better quarterback than Stafford last week. You can only really argue Tua Tagovailoa, in my opinion, and he turned the ball over. But this is what I'll say, okay? Matthew Stafford, if those 2 touchdown runs to Kyron Williams and one of those to Cam Akers, those are passing touchdowns, everyone loves the fantasy football. So now all of a sudden, he's one of the league leaders in fantasy, and now everyone has their attention. But having 335 yards or 34 yards and no touchdowns, but looking flawless doing it on tape, people don't care about tape. Not all the time. They should, but they don't, right? So I watched that game, and he's making these throws, and I'm like, man, like, no offense. Like, I always hate bringing it up because it, like, riles people up, but, like, are there still anybody out there that really believe Jared Goff was a better option than Stafford? Because making that trade was a no-brainer. And they're like, oh, man, he hasn't thrown an interception. I don't care. Okay, Matthew Stafford was thrown for 5 different arm angles last week, all right? And not all those guys were wide open. Like, he'd be like, all right, so we got like two defenders here. Tutu Atwell's going to run this dig, and you have like three guys bearing down. I'm just going to throw it right through all those three guys. And you're watching him throw that, and you're like, he's seeing three defenders in the middle of the field. There's no Tutu Atwell yet on the picture. He's letting this go, and Atwell is just breaking. And it's perfectly fit in between three. I'm like, the balls you have to have to throw that and make that throw. It's just incredible. And so when Stafford's in his bag like that, like, you got to look out. And that's what happens. I mean, Stafford was like, it was like a celebration because he hadn't had that protection at any point last year. I mean, people forget that Bills game that they were like supposed to be like, that was supposed to be the game of the year. Like, that's why they put Rams Bills. Immediately, Brian Allen gets hurt. He's their center. So then Coleman Shelton, who was their right guard, he gets hurt. Okay. And then you had Note Boom, their left tackle. He's hurt and he's playing injured. So it's like the offensive line started off banged up. And then you have Von Miller, you have Greg Rousseau, you got just all sorts of guys just coming for Stafford. And it was just a bad day. So now Stafford, first time in 2 years, he has a really good offensive line protection, and there you go. He shows you what he can do. I saw what our guy Gammon said. What are your thoughts on the job Mike LaFleur has done? Crock, does LaFleur's intimate knowledge of the 49ers scheme, players, and coaches give the Rams a tactical edge? Can Rams match physical? I'm curious what you think about this, because for me, I think this is exactly, by the way, they don't build the team to beat the Niners, but you can be sure they made this hire to beat the Niners. So
Right.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think first my thoughts on, LaFleur, and I don't know what LaFleur has done with the Rams. So is he your offensive coordinator now?
Yeah, he doesn't call the plays, but they've already changed up their run schemes and things like that. So, yeah.
All right. I think that does help in the sense of just knowing now again, you can know the knowledge McVay knows. I mean, these guys spent a lot of time with Kyle Shanahan. So I don't even know if LaFleur knows anything more or less than what McVay knows. And when you're a coach and you're watching the film, I mean, that's giving you all the tells you need. I think for the 49ers, the tough thing is, even if you know what's coming or you have a tell, like maybe Patrick Peterson had, one, you have to make the play when the opportunity presents itself, which Patrick Peterson did not. But two, you also have to stop some tremendous players that they're going to in those moments. So, if the 49ers just execute, then they're going to be tough to stop, even if you have an idea of what might potentially be coming. So in the sense of the knowledge that you might be able to get from LaFleur, or even what McVay knows, guys that have been around Shanahan, pick his brain, he's kind of the mastermind. We say mastermind. I saw someone in the chat say, Kyle Shanahan's the teacher and McVay is a student. Well, the student is the one with the Super Bowl. So again, when it mattered most, the student won. He beat the teacher. He beat the sensei. But ultimately, I think what it comes down to is really just execution and having the guys that can execute. I think it makes a big difference when you have guys like Matthew Stafford that can help other guys execute. And you talked about some of the throws and kind of letting it go and not even seeing the receiver in the picture. I've talked a couple of times already this week about this throw to the near the sideline where I couldn't tell who the ball was going to, and it felt like it passed through three different guys. Then all of a sudden, it hits a guy on the sideline. I'm like, goddamn, Matthew Stafford! Like, he does things like that.
Oh, you're talking about the Puka Nakua catch.
Yeah,
that was gnarly, man. He had Atwell too. So that's the crazy thing, is that he just threw to a spot and he knew somebody would be there. And it's like, I don't know, man. When he's in his bag like that, that's one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. And people still, Madden had him rated as the 75 overall, 22nd best quarterback in their video game. It's like,
did they?
Yeah, man. It's just
Very
disrespect with this guy.
Yeah, that's very disrespectful. He's still Matthew Stafford. He's still out there slinging that rock around. What I do want to get into now is Underdog Fantasy. All right. Underdog Fantasy, if you haven't already, download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code Crocky. They will double your deposit up to $100. And now we're about to give the giveaway. So as I get ready to give this giveaway, again, I'm going to have Jake pick a random fan, no pressure, a random fan. Now put their username in the chat. So go ahead, throw those usernames in the chat now. But before we do that, I'm going to share my page here. And maybe I can
Love it.
zoom in.
See what I mean? Christian Rosebud 6.5 tackles. He better not play that much. Like,
So you don't want that. So you don't like that. Now here's a good thing. Do you think the Rams will score 2 touchdowns?
yeah.
See, so you should go with the higher on Brett Maher's extra points. I like that. I kind of like the kicking points.
Well, hey, Eric. 90% field goal kicker. He can hit a 63-yarder, but he missed like 5 extra points in the playoffs. So that's why he was a free agent.
Oh no, is that the one with the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
That's why they're like, I got you there.
We also have some other plays here. All right, and I'm just going to show y'all how underdog fantasy works. All right, and we'll kind of start with the top here, which starts with Matthew Stafford, 227 yards. If they are down, now you expect or you kind of predicted that the Rams might have the lead late.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Rams will have to be able to throw the ball to win this game? Do you think that Akers and Williams can they run well? If not, do you see Matthew Stafford throwing for more than 227 yards?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm taking whatever the higher lower is on Cam Akers. I'm taking the lower there. 30.5. I understand that's not a lot. He ran the ball 21 times yesterday or last week, and he had a 1.8 yards per carry average. Now, I understand Seattle sold out to stop the run, but the 49ers don't have to. They have that front. You know, you have Hargrave, you have Armstead, you got Drake Jackson, you got Nick Bosa, and then those linebackers. I just, like, if he didn't do it last week, I don't know. Like, I think they like Kyron more. So, and it's a tell, man. If we talk about tells, it's a tell. When he is in the backfield, they don't use him in the receiving game, and he can't pass protect the way Kyron does. So that's why Kyron had 53 snaps to Akers 28 last week, is because when, like, Akers is in, 28 times, he was given the ball 21. So only 7 of those times he wasn't handed the ball off. That's not enough disparity. So if a defense, like, I'm chomping at the bit, I'm putting 9 guys in the box. Akers is there. I see number 3. This is going to be a run. And he's not as quick as Kyron, and he wasn't breaking as many tackles. So
that's interesting because Kyron is supposed to be the guy that's like not as explosive. He was one of the better backs coming out of college, and then he didn't run a good 40. I think that kind of let him slide right there to the Rams. You have 2 receivers here, Van Jefferson. You talked about his drop, Puga as well. Puga had all the targets, 15 targets last week. Van Jefferson was targeted, even though he didn't have like a huge, outcome as far as his productivity. But is there anything that you see here that you like from any of these 2 guys?
It's, I really like Tutu Atwell. I really like, I know he's below there at 40.5. I mean, I think he hits 100 in this game. I think he's going to go for another 100 because he's the only chance they have, in my opinion.
Yeah, so he has to be explosive.
Yeah.
All right, now let's try to, get our thoughts over on the San Francisco 49ers and look at some of their players that they have here. And I want to get your thoughts on this. All right, so we have Brock Purdy.
Rushing yards, baby.
You want to take his rushing yards?
Immediately. Because here's the thing. He's never seen Aaron Donald before, right? He's never played against Aaron Donald. And this guy doesn't really get, he doesn't get freaked out or anything. But the Rams will get one play a game where they'll get in there. And he will do a nice job. We saw last week, Purdy totally got, Fitzpatrick to bite. He did the spin move and ran. Like, he's going to do something like that in this game. He just needs to get 7 yards when he does that, right? So I think that's – and another thing last week, Geno didn't run enough because what we actually found out is the secondary can cover. And so they were covering DK. They were covering Jackson Smith and Jigba. They were covering Tyler Lockett. They were covering Fant. So Geno was left with a pocket. The problem was they weren't getting any pressure, so he was sitting there all day. He should have taken off and run. Purdy's going to have a play like that or two where he'll have plenty of opportunities to go over that 6.5.
All right, so we're going to go with that. We're going to go with that on Purdy's rushing. You also have Christian McCaffrey. I know you talked about, just how he matches up against the Rams. I know you thought that was kind of an advantageous situation for him. Elijah Mitchell, he got some carries in the game, didn't have a great yards per carry, and the 49ers really leaned on McCaffrey for the whole game. Will they continue to kind of stick with that and run him? You also have Deebo Samuel. You got Brandon Ayuk. But out of these guys, we'll start with McCaffrey. Anything you like here, or would you pass on McCaffrey's numbers?
Oh, I mean, he's gonna shred them on the ground. So I'm gonna go 67.5. I think the 100.5 is definitely possible, rushing and receiving, and it's fun to root for because if you're sitting there as a Niner fan, you just are like, anything Christian McCaffrey's doing, it's counting towards you. I still, that just went up right after I
know.
said it.
In real time, did you see that?
Yeah, see, that's a sign. So 67.5 rushing yards. I think they're going to eat the edge defenders alive with Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, he had 152, like I said, quiet 152 last week. I'm going to go over that.
All right, and then we have Jake Moody here. I actually usually like the kicking ones. I'll go with y'all because I'm actually going to play this right now as we do this in real time. I'm going to put the money in and everything. We got Jake Moody here. I don't know. I took his points and that worked last time. Do we think the 49ers score 3 touchdowns? Now, you said basically yes. When you were kind of giving your prediction, like your score prediction, you essentially said, yeah, I think the 49ers score 3 tugs.
He scares me, though, with the extra point.
Y'all, and someone's at my door right now. But fans, do y'all think that the 49ers will score?
What was there was one here while he's...
1 second, Joe, I got to sign this. Go ahead, still look at this, and then I'll go handle that real quick.
Yeah. No, Gabriel, sacks don't take away from rushing yards. They take away from passing yards. It's not like college. See, college, it's like you get sacked and you lose all that rushing. And that's why like guys will end up with the season, they'll have like negative rushing yards on the year. Quarterbacks do. So that's to give you that. I don't think there's any time. Is there any time touchdown here? I don't know. 2.5. Yeah, I got you.
Okay. So they like the over on the touchdown. So they would take the 2.5 extra points made by Moody.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like they like that. I would probably pass. I don't trust either of these kickers to make extra points. I think that's really what it comes down to. So I don't know. I kind of like the Jawan Jennings 15.5. I mean, I understand he's not the third option. Like he's the third receiver. He's not the third option, but man, like that makes him more likely in my opinion, right?
All right. So we're going to go with Jawan Jennings and that 15 yards, it could be one catch. All right. So can he get one catch? That's how I always look at that.
Yeah. He's done well against the Rams before. So
here's what we're playing. Y'all, we got Cam Akers. We're taking the lower on his rushing yards. Tutu Atwell, we're taking the higher on his receiving yards. Brock Purdy, higher on his 6.5 rushing yards. Christian McCaffrey, 67.5 rushing yards. We're going higher there. And Jawan Jennings, 15.5 rushing yards. We're going to put $20 down on that. The payout on that is $400. Just $20 on that, $400. You guys get the chance to match that. And we confirm. And they need my location. Okay, I'll do it from my phone. But I'm going to copy that same play right there and do it from my phone. And
I'm
yeah,
gonna do it as well.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so we're doing that. Underdog Fantasy promo code Crocky. Get in on that. But it's time. It's the time that y'all been waiting on. Has everybody put their username in the chat? If not, the time is now. Put your Underdog Fantasy username in the chat. If you don't have Underdog Fantasy, I actually have the link in the description. You can click that. You can sign up. Use promo code Crocky. They will double your deposit up to $100. But all right, here we go. I think everybody has their usernames in the chat. I see Gabriel pop his in. Jake popped his in. There's some more if you scroll up. It's up to Jake now. All right. So Jake, the floor is yours. Do you see a username that you want to gift this $50 for Underdog Fantasy to?
Let's see here. I need to see more, y'all. You guys gotta drop them.
There we go. They're dropping them in right now. This is awesome, man. This has been a good stream. I told you, I said, man, 15, 20 minutes of your time. And it's like, we're nearing an hour. And I feel like we've only been going for like 15 minutes.
Oh, I know. That's how it is with me. I'm not one of those people like, yeah, you only get 15 minutes of my time, dude, and I'm out.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've been, I've dealt with that like pretty recently. So I get it.
I haven't had those type of guests. I mean, you have guys coming on, and we haven't talked about your show yet, but you do believe in Rams, the Believe Rams show, and there was one with the 49ers with Eric Davis, but I don't think Eric Davis, and there was another guy too, Rashawn, I think.
I think he left. I don't know who does the 49ers one. I know I'm a bad member of the network.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I can't think of them.
You have
I
great
also
guests
do.
on. I just saw Marshall Falk. You talked about having
Yeah.
Tori Holt. So you're having some big time guests.
And I mean, I still do Downtown Rams with Alexis. So yeah, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's see. Man, this is tough. I don't know if I can do Bang Bang Niner Game. I don't know about that one. Uh,
The pressure.
trying to string me up and kill me over here. Okay. Let's go with man. It's a little biased. I'm gonna go with the Jake here. I'm gonna go with Jop.
All right. Here we go. Hold on. I did see the Jake in there. There we go. We got Jake. I don't even want to butcher your last name, guys. You Jakes in
Oppenheim.
these last names. Oppenheim.
Oppenheimer.
All right. JOPP. You are the winner. $50 coming your way. I'll be sending it over to my guy so we can
Hey.
get that credited to your account. Let's go. Everybody else, tune in next week. This will be the second giveaway. I gave away one on Monday. I'm giving another one away. So we gave away $100 in Underdog Fantasy. And if you want part of that, go ahead and just download the app. Use promo code Crocky so I can throw you some money too, man, so you can play and do these plays with us. But Jake, man, I appreciate you. Let everyone know where they can find everything that you have going on because you've been an awesome guest.
Hey, I appreciate that. You guys can find me on Twitter at JK Bogan. See it right there below me. I do a lot of Rams content, but I also have an NFL show that I do with former Rams and Buccaneers linebacker Cameron Lynch. It's called Off the Edge. So we do cover the 49ers technically, right? We cover all the NFL teams. So, do that. I write for Turf Show Times now. And if you guys like gaming, I'm on kick.com/JKBogan. I play some Warzone here and there. I also do film breakdown and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm kind of all over, Eric.
Oh man, hey, if anybody understands how you kind of have to be all over with this streaming stuff, it's me. And I remember I was going in to get a new car, right? And I had this car. I really didn't want to give it up, but I'm like, gosh, I don't know how much longer it's gonna make it. So I went in to get a new car, and they're like, hey, can we get your check stubs? And I'm like, man, I'm getting money from like all over. Like, I don't know.
I know
They're
the
like,
feeling.
okay, can we just get your bank statement? And at this time, I had no idea even how much money I was making at that time. And so I give them, I go to the bank, I get a printout, and I'm like, I made $17,000 last month. I made 16. I didn't even know how much money I was making, but it's coming from all these different places. So yeah, I completely understand.
It's just everywhere.
Hey, however I gotta get it, I got money coming in from Underdog Fantasy. My wife, we just moved back to California. I got a new bank account. She's like, you gotta, make sure you tell everyone to start sending it to your new bank account instead of that Monticello, Arkansas one, because it's a bank, it's a small town bank, so it's just there. And I'm like, gosh. She was like, so make sure you tell Locked On. You got your Underdog Fantasy, you got your Bleacher Report. You have and she started naming off all these things, and I'm like, damn, that's a lot of people to let know. To update my money that I'm coming in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I understand. But Jake, man, it's been awesome. Appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to kind of seeing your timeline as the game is going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Always appreciate it, Eric. You've come on my show before, so I appreciate you having me on. And you should look into Kick. I'm just saying, there's not a lot of us sports guys on there that also like game. So if you game, you don't even have to game. But if you're a sports guy, it's gonna be hourly pay. So yeah. I'm just saying, if you need a link or whatever, you want me to show you, the ropes or whatever, just let me know. But I stream, if you ever want to game with me, I mean, I bring people on. I do co-streaming with, if you know Gary Sheffield Jr.
I just watched him hit like a walk-off home run or something in a game. He's younger, right?
Well, Gary Sheffield Jr. is Gary Sheffield's kid, and he's 30.
Oh, he's 30. So who was I watching? I saw Gary Sheffield.
Probably his younger brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, no, he's really cool. He comes on, he covers baseball, but like we do like joint streams together, and we'll just be playing Warzone and just like talking to people. So it's a lot of fun. And like, on certain other days, I'll have people come on, watch parties. I did a watch party for the Eagles Vikings game. And I'll have people come on and we'll do like all 22 down. So kind of cool.
Oh hell yeah, yeah, man. I'm definitely looking to get more information on that. Send me any links or anything, and see what I can get going with that. I need to get back into Call of Duty. I keep saying I am. I actually
hell yeah.
gave up. I just gave away my Xbox, but that I had the latest Xbox, and once everything just picked up so much with the streaming, and then I was training a bunch of athletes and all of that. I'm like, I just for the first time in my life, I just don't have time to play video games. I love playing video games, so maybe I'll go out, buy another Xbox, start to get on more Call of Duty, and maybe interact with some of the people with that. But Jake, appreciate you coming on, man. And yeah, I look forward to reading the timeline, seeing you on there.
All right. I appreciate you. Take care, man.
All right. Man, shout out to my guy Jake, man. That was a great guest. It's going to be hard to kind of follow that up. Someone that gives such a great, unbiased opinion of his squad. And, I try to be that for the 49ers as well. But that was a great job by him. That's going to do it for this episode of the Eric Crocker Show. Make sure you
like and subscribe this video.
Yeah. And make sure you guys download Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky. They'll deposit up to $100 into your account. And today we are depositing up to, $50 into Jake's account. All right. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll be back. Maybe I'll go live after the game. I don't know. I know I'll be on with Bleacher Report before and after Locked On 49ers, but we're going to make time. Appreciate everybody here. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.